Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. Um, our little webinar is about careers in the semiconductor industry and the future of work. And this is your participation here today is greatly because of Last Mile. We're so fortunate to have an organization like Last Mile here helping students and making degrees possible. So we're really fortunate to have the CEO and founder here who will be sharing a few words in a minute. Also, this program is also made possible by Cadence, KLA, Applied Materials, Lam, and AMD. These are huge players in the semiconductor industry, and they're so supportive of new graduates. In fact, the people who are going to co-host with me today are actually recruiters. So bring your A game, guys. Bring your A game. So the agenda is really quick and neat tonight. We're going to use the most out of this hour. We're going to do a few polls, introductions. Welcome from Ruth Farmer from Glass Mile. We're going to do a quick overview of the industry, and then we're going to have a panel discussion. And what you did when you registered for this event is you submitted questions. So we took the questions that were repeated the most by you guys, the most asked questions, and we're going to start off with 5 of those, and then we're going to open it up to the chat and hopefully have time for you guys to ask questions after what you've seen today. So let's get started with our first poll. And in the chat, could you tell us, yes, no, little, lot, are you familiar with the semiconductor industry? Are you guys familiar with what it's about, the history, the jobs available? Oh, great. There's a lot of yeses. Awesome. Familiar. Okay. Yes. All right. Somewhat. Okay, we're going to hopefully answer all your questions and get you more familiar with it. Okay, our next poll question. Do you currently have a job or an internship or anything like that lined up after graduation? And if so, can you just like tell us what the industry is? You don't have to give us nope, not yet. We don't have to give us the company, but if you tell us what industry your job is it automotive? Is it, I'm from Detroit, so all I know is automotive, sorry. That's the only industry I know of besides semiconductors. Still looking for one, all right. No, not after graduation. Okay, all right, hopefully we can help you guys out today. Medical devices, ooh. Lots of semiconductors and medical devices. Okay, keep those answers coming in. So let's kick it off. I want to welcome Ruth Farmer, who is the founder and CEO of Last Mile, the Last Mile Education Fund. Ruth, welcome.
Hello, everyone. So nice to meet you all. And you all obviously know about Last Mile Education Fund because you're here because we funded you or you're one of our partners. But I'm really excited about the Semiconductor Pathways Fund and our partnership with all these great companies. One, because we want you all to get jobs, and there's a lot of jobs in the semiconductor industry. It's really growing. There's been a lot of federal investment into the industry, and there's 100 to 146,000 new workers that we need in this field, and that means y'all. So that's part of the reason we launched this fund, but Last Mile Education Fund I launched back in 2019 because I kept seeing a clear gap in financial support for what I call striving students. So students who have demonstrated they've done most of the work, they know they're committed to their field, they've gotten halfway there, but something happens that throws you off track. And that's just such a loss for you. It's a loss for the country. It's a loss for industry when we lose great talent like that. So that's why we've been making these investments. And I am happy to say we have invested over $18 million in 14,000 individual students since we started. And 80% is our graduation rate, which if you don't know, the national graduation rate for all income levels is 65% of students finish a degree within 6 years. And our students are graduating at 80%. And that's incredible. And what's also awesome is that our students are coming from 1,100 different institutions. And so the ability for the corporate partners to be able to connect with a lot more students than they could ever physically go visit campuses is huge. So we're really excited about that as well. Um, I'm just here to say I'm happy to see you all engaging, and please tell your friends about Last Mile, your younger students in your groups, as well as your faculty, because we really can't afford to lose a single possible engineer, especially if you could be going into a semiconductor pathway, because that's a really big priority for the United States. It's a big priority for industry, and we all need chips and all these great devices that you're going to build and design and we're going to create to solve the various challenges facing the world. So I'm just going to say thank you for being here, and thank you to Semi for hosting this webinar. Thank you to all of our amazing partners, and I just want to give a special shout out to Applied Materials, who kicked this whole thing off with their Momentum Fund many years ago. And we've funded now hundreds of young people like yourselves going into this potential semiconductor pathways. You know, we're not holding you to it, but we'd really like you to think about it. And I'm happy to take questions later or in the chat. And welcome and thanks for joining.
Great. Thank you, Ruth. Certainly impactful, the work that you do and your organization does. Sometimes it just a small amount of funding can make all the difference whether or not a student graduates. And I so appreciate it. I was a student once, and I was a first generation college student, and the struggle is real. So thank you for the work that you do. Great. So I have my co-host. I'll start with myself. My name is Bia Hamid, and I work for the SEMI Foundation. I'm a program manager for global education initiatives, and I work with K-12. I work with higher ed to build pipelines to semiconductor jobs. So a lot of the work that I do is image and awareness. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to Laura.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Reuter. I'm a university relations recruiter with AMD. Super excited to be here. I've been with AMD University Relations for more than 4 years, and I sit at the Austin location. And we are, of course, all about semiconductors, so I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to pass it over to Hallie for introduction.
Thanks, Laura. My name is Hallie Brown, and I have been on our university relations team here at Applied Materials for just under 4 years. And super stoked to be chatting with you guys. I'm coming here from our offices up here in Kalispell, Montana, and very, very excited to be hearing what all of you guys are going to be wanting to do next, all of your questions. So yeah, bring it on. And I'm going to pass it over to Natalie.
Thanks, Hallie. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Cooper. I'm an emerging talent recruiter at KLA. I've been here about 5 years now, and I work out of our Ann Arbor office recruiting for our intern and new grad roles. So super excited to be here and talk to you all more about this exciting industry and where there might be a fit for you. I'll pass it over to Eric.
All right. Hi, my name is Eric. Work with Cadence Design Systems. I've been with the UR program here. This is my 4th school year right now, soon to be planning for class of 2027 and moving on to the 5th school year. So basically try to spend my career focused specifically on university recruitment, something that I do passionately believe in. Definitely, resources for building the future, especially with a lot of the AI talent out there, because it is a newer technology. But of all the UR work that I've done, even though my last employer was Keysight Technologies, definitely I would find that some of the proudest work that I did during my UR career, because I had to take an entire intern program. I was basically hired to save their intern program because it was the year 2020, as I think you were all in school at the time. That silly little thing, COVID-19 that we had, they were going to lose their internship program. So getting everything functioning remotely was probably one of the proudest things I've done during the UR career, because we basically kept all the jobs and we did not have to rescind any offers, as some companies did during that unprecedented year. So that was, but basically UR work is what I believe passionately, and that's why we're here today with you guys. So I will shut up now and let Carrie finish up the introductions of ourselves.
So,
I'm Carrie. Oh,
yeah, you made it.
I did. I did make it. I got stuck in traffic, but I'm here. My name is Carrie Harvey. I am the University Recruiting Program Manager at Lamb Research. So I run the intern program as well as build pipeline for our future interns, as well as future graduate hires as well. And I've been at Lamb for over 8 years now.
Wow, we have a very experienced group of recruiters on the line today. So I'm really excited that you guys are co-hosting with me. So we'll start it off with the overview of the industry.
Great.
And
All right, so let's have a little overview. So at a high level, the semiconductor industry is the foundation behind nearly all technology that we're all using today. So from AI and smartphones to cars and clean energy, all these technologies are powered by semiconductors, and it's a very collaborative industry. No one single company is building a chip alone, and it takes a ton of different specialties working together, from design and materials to manufacturing, inspection, and quality. So over on the right of the screen, you see Cadence, Applied Materials, Lam Research, KLA, and AMD, and all who represent the full semiconductor life cycle. And together, all of these companies, it's showing how ideas are moving from concepts to real-world technology that we're all using every day. And so the reason that this matters for you is that innovation is happening across every part of the semiconductor ecosystem, and there's room for engineers, data analysts, software developers, technicians, operations, problem solvers, really at every stage in the process. So we're really gonna go in and see where your skills and interests might fit into this industry and how you can be a part of shaping what's next.
so just to level the playing field, I just want to give the backstory about why are semiconductors so important. Yes, they're a part of everything we use from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. They're in, we talk about AI, we talk about different industries that we use chips in. But let's take a step back and realize that a little something happened, Eric referred to as COVID-19, and it pretty much shut down anything manufacturing, even cars. Like I told you, I'm from Detroit and we produce cars here. We couldn't even finish the cars that were being built that year because we had no chips. They were stuck overseas because the US at the time did not produce any chips. Well, fast forward to 2022, and something called the Chips and Science Act came out, which it roughly consisted of $280 billion, and that's billion, and authorized funding for 5 years. And this would go towards building the chips industry here in the United States. The money went through to education, subsidies, research, loans, tax breaks, appropriations, like all different things to build the infrastructure, right? So we're building all this infrastructure and we're building all these buildings, and companies are planting their flags in our country, and now we need that workforce. So as Ruth alluded to earlier, by 2030, we're going to need over 100,000 employees in the semiconductor industry here in the United States. And guess what? We're hiring them now and as we go. So globally, it looks like over 1 million people in the semiconductor industry. So there's room for everyone. And these are good jobs that pay well with a lot of growth potential. So that leads us here today talking to you guys. So I don't do recruiting, but I do awareness events. And I go to high schools, I go to middle schools, I go to colleges, and a lot of times I play games with them just so they can realize all the companies, and this is just a small smidgen of the companies that use semiconductors. It's so important. So this is a little trivia game I play, and I'm sure you guys, you probably can guess all these. Where students get stuck is maybe this one. If you know it, put it in the chat. I'm sure you guys are gamers and you can figure, yeah, there you go. And also, believe it or not, this one right here, if you think you know this one, this round one and the one next to it, go ahead. Yep, LG, yep. And how about this one right here? And this one right here. Does anyone know this one? It's a little weird. There you go, Hyundai. So it's funny, I did this in Arizona where they don't build cars and they couldn't get Ford or Chevy. So they got Lexus for some reason. They got Honda, but they couldn't get Ford and Chevy. I was like so disappointed. I'm like, but those are the American made ones. So just to give you a hint, so many companies. Now, this is the semiconductor ecosystem. And just to let you know, SEMI is right in the center. So we're a trade organization. And these are all our members all over the world. We're global. Some of them and some of these companies, these logos you can recognize, but probably most of them you don't. It's because they're doing work behind the scenes, and that does not make them any less important than the other companies that like Apple or Intel, right? These companies are crucial to the pipeline of chips. We need them all. So what we do is we just support all the companies. Workforce development is our specialty, the area that I'm in. So we are working with elementary, middle school, high schoolers to teach them about the industry and hopefully get them interested in hopping on a pipeline to get them to good careers in the semiconductor industry.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that overview and intro to what we're going to talk about next. At AMD, just to be more specific, I am in search of co-op and internship talent. And so a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about today, that's our target for building pipeline within university relations. And some of this does funnel into our NCG recruitment, but again, the focus is going to be on co-ops and internships. So I'm going to pull a little bit of a deeper thread within development, or more so product development. That is an area that I recruit for, and they're housed mostly in Austin, and we have some teams within product development. They're also in the Bay Area. So, focusing on with some job titles or areas that might interest you, of course, semiconductor, not so much research, just semiconductor background, coursework. And let's talk a little bit about a materials science or materials background. We start talking about our advanced packaging teams and the technology or just all of the design that goes into the chip and the packaging of the chip. Then we start to get very drawn to candidates that have materials background, semiconductor background. And the concept of process development is super important, but product development is a really cool blend of, well, I think it's cool. It's a blend of hardware and software, and finding a candidate likes to live inside both areas. And that's not to say that AMD is only product development. This is just one of our areas. You're going to see as our careers page posts for 2017 opportunities that we have machine learning, AI, software development, and so on and so on. So product development is just an example of one area of teams and what they look for. So if we go a little bit deeper, product development teams will also be very drawn to device physics backgrounds. Anything physics where you have hardware knowledge, you like to have that hands-on application and approach to your learning, but you also have this blend of not necessarily software development, but you are knowledgeable in automation, scripting, and just making processes smoother and more fluid. It's been really exciting to see in almost the last 5 years that I've been with AMD, just the trend of building what I call even 60-40, 70-30, where 60% hardware blended with 40% and all the things. Because as AI and machine learning just really, are the target in all things, we're seeing the need to have this blend. Whereas at one time, I feel AMD, there was maybe a time where teams were solely hardware focused and they would collaborate with more of a software focused team, data science, machine learning, data engineering. And now we're starting to see more of that deeper blend with AI, ML, machine learning fused in. So that's just a little bit about some of the opportunities at AMD. I'm going to pass it over to my counterpart to discuss further.
Yeah, I mean, with the AI and machine learning, that really is something that goes across everything. It's like in our world here at Cadence, we have our design team and SSG, our Silicon Solutions Group. So that's our hardware department where we actually do have hardware designers. So we work with other companies that are maybe smaller and don't have their own design teams like AMD do it. They're usually startup companies run by a bunch of software guys who need a chip to make their product run. So they come to us. We actually build the IP. We design the IP. We sell to them, and a lot of times, a lot of these chips will involve AI in there. We have AI in our systems on chips. So, and then we also have our EDA software side of things, where you do have a need for AI implementing in all of our EDA software. So, just kind of briefly on what our part of the world traditionally known for our EDA software. So any company in the Silicon Valley, here I'm sitting in San Jose, basically every company that's designing a chip for their product, more or less would be using our EDA software to design their chips. So AI has definitely made its way into its world these days. So it can predict what the designer's trying to do. It definitely can do a lot of the work for them so that it can get a chip design quicker for the customer that's using our EDA software. They can get their chip into the fab a lot quicker. And one of the nice things that has kind of been incorporated in the last few years is sort of like a chat GPT type of box where the circuit's not working. Someone's just designing something and it's not working the way they want. They can just type it up in the box and the EDA software can pull down a bunch of research papers for them to look at, where traditionally in the past, like the last few decades, if somebody had trouble making something work, they would have to physically take themselves and go through library research to find old papers to help solve whatever's not working. So, this use of AI is saving probably a whole day of their work by doing this now. But for this engineering slide, it's kind of representing the industry overall. So just in our world, we are more traditionally the EDA software where we have developers. We do have as I mentioned, the design engineers for SSG where we design the IP. A lot of these other titles here don't necessarily refer to us, but are very important jobs within the world of semiconductors. Manufacturing, just because we are providing the EDA software. So we don't actually manufacture. So even when we sell IP to other customers, they're responsible for getting chip manufactured. They paid us for the IP. So whether they actually manufacture it or not, we've done our part. But certainly a lot of different companies out here, all the semiconductor companies or networking companies, even like previous employers, you have the process engineers, you have people working in the fab where they're working with where they're actually creating the wafer and building the chips, which I think will probably be covered more from one of the other slides. but quality engineer. So all important jobs within all the other different companies. Field service engineers, basically you are basically customer facing roles where you get to you can be an engineer, you can be playing with the technology, but it's like an engineer that likes people and they spend a lot of time customer interfacing. So there are jobs for people who just like the technology but they also want to deal with that interaction all the time. So they end up becoming field service engineers or application engineers. So, but definitely a lot of different opportunities for those double E's or CE degrees out there. Okay. I think you want to move to the next slide.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hallie Brown, and I am from Applied Materials. I want to talk a little bit about technicians. So when we talk about early career opportunities with a strong future, do not sleep on technician roles. My particular focus at Applied Materials, and Eric just touched on this, is our Field Service Engineer Development Program, which lasts around a year, where you're given hands-on training with our tools and then relocated to one of our customer sites to be the first line of defense in keeping our products running. So for the technician roles, the job outlook is incredibly positive. Technicians make up nearly half of all the industry job postings, about 45% in just the last year. That tells us demand is not slowing down. These roles are that companies consistently need to keep operations running, equipment maintained, and innovation moving forward. Another big plus, accessibility. They offer a real opportunity to upskill from production roles into maintenance, engineering support, or specialized technical positions. Many engineers, supervisors, and plant managers started their careers as technicians. So here's a few fun facts about technician jobs. No 2 days are the same. Like I said, you are the first line of defense in terms of keeping our tools up and running. You are the ultimate problem solvers. You often work with cutting-edge technology long before it reaches the broader public. And then these jobs blend hands-on work with technical thinking, which is great for people who like seeing the direct impact of their work. Some of the most in-demand roles right now are on this slide. Field service technicians, engineering technicians, maintenance technicians, manufacturing techs, and product technicians. So there's a wide range of environments and career paths to choose from. If you're early in career and looking for stability, growth, and meaningful work that you can literally touch and see, technician roles are one of the smartest places to start. Thanks, and I'm going to pass it on to the next person.
Thanks so much. So as you can see, everyone has talked a lot about engineering roles, things like that. But there are also roles within these companies that are not necessarily engineering focused, or on the flip side, could be something that you could work towards later on after you've been in the industry for a while. So we always need people on the business side of things, business analysts, financial analysts, human resources, the list goes on and on. And so I want anyone who's not a part of engineering to not be afraid either, because I do not come from an engineering background, and I can share that, I was worried. I was like, I don't know anything about the semiconductor industry. I had never even heard of Lam Research before I started a job within the industry. And so just know, there is movement available. You can start somewhere and go somewhere else. I can speak for Lam, but we're very big on people moving, within the industry. I've seen people start out as process engineers and now they work in product marketing. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility within the industry because, again, once you have that knowledge of the company and what you do, there are so many different areas that you can apply it to as well. So again, no need to be fearful if you're like, I don't know about the industry. You can learn all of that. We will teach you all of that. But there's definitely something for everyone across the board.
I love that. Oh, I love that. You guys did such a great job with that. It sounds great. So, for you new graduates or those who are getting ready to graduate, we do something called semi stories. and you can find it on YouTube. And this is where we get people in the industry to come and tell us about a day in the life. So it's a really great program. We partnered with a company named Tigbee, who does educational media. So they're really well done videos, and they're not too long. They're only a few minutes each, but it gives you that deep dive of what it's like to do the job and what is the job all about. So I encourage you all to take a look. All right. So moving on, we're gonna have a panel discussion, and as I mentioned earlier, we are actually going to we pulled all your questions, and these are the most popular ones. And if we have time, we'll take questions off the chat. So the first question is got the wrong paper. All right, guys. Can you tell me more about the direction of the semiconductor industry? Where's it heading, new innovations, and how new members in the workforce can be a part of this innovation? Who would like to start?
I can. Hallie from Applied Materials. And so I would say the semiconductor industry is being driven by, AI, data growth, sustainability, which is pushing innovation just beyond the traditional scaling into new materials and manufacturing approaches. For example, Applied Materials, we sit at the center of that innovation, enabling chip makers with advanced materials engineering, process technologies, packaging. So for new workforce members, it's a chance to be part of a, very collaborative, interdisciplinary industry with curiosity, learning, problem solving, all of those things directly shaping the technology that impact the world.
And I'll add a layer of that. So with AMD's AI usage, I mean, it's all across the board, even into our non-technical spaces. Like as a recruiter, we are required and we're really, really motivated to go into the AI side to make everything that we do in our processes smoother. So we've had a nice 40% increase just overall in AI usage at AMD. And it's just a topic that's normalized and welcomed, and it in no means can replace smart leadership. This is not how it works. It's not replacing jobs. We still need leadership. We still need decision making. But it does definitely. We are seeing the agentic AI within the CPU GPU space. It's really working side by side within the GPU space. And it's also driving CPU server consumption. So we're seeing that wonderful overlap within the CPU GPU side, which is really, really big for us. And it's a really exciting time. And AI is honestly, it's super important in early talent, like in intern and co-op hiring. It's what we look for because you're going to be implemented into projects and fused into projects that your teams are doing as they spearhead and make everything just so much smoother and better with AI usage. So it's a super important piece to even an undergrad or graduate student looking for opportunities.
That's interesting. I'd like you guys to talk more about AI and the job field. Now, what kind of skill set in AI should a new hire have? What are you looking for?
I think it's pretty consistent across the board. Python, PyTorch, TensorFlow, all those skills are always going to be important. Things that we talk about are really the algorithms that someone has developed, especially as we're meeting different students at all the different universities every year.
I
That's
think
good.
too, we're seeing in some roles that aren't so AI focused that having a curiosity for AI and wanting to explore it a little bit more is something that managers are liking to see. I recently saw feedback that somebody wasn't so interested in AI and the manager wasn't super into that just because it is such a big driver of the industry. And so even roles that were traditionally more hardware focused, having that curiosity and experience with it can really benefit you in the long run, just as we are kind of moving towards this big, huge push towards AI and almost everything we do at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like there needs to be an embrace of AI and the willingness to even learn AI to really like be desirable to get a job in the semiconductor industry. So what do entry level roles look like within the industry? Now, I know Haley, you touched on some of them, the technology jobs, but what are some other entry level roles?
From our end over here, it doesn't look that much different from the experience level because a lot of our managers are going to be looking at what they've done, whether it came from any of their past internships that they had it, but even just the projects that they do as part of their curriculum at school is going to be very important. And a lot of the conversations that we have on site is really learning. Like if they do want to go into a double E going into some kind of chip design, we're really going to look at what they have done because a lot of them do, well, at least from our perspective as a EDA provider, we do tend to target specific engineering schools because we know we've provided them our software. So we do know that they're learning how to design chips using our software. So we are looking to hear from them what they actually designed. Like at some of the students at Purdue, they have a STARS program that basically very strict criteria to be part of that. And, they go through the full design cycle. One year we just happened to be visiting, I think some of the other panelists were there on the same day. We were there on the day that that very morning they just completed tape out. So we probably could not have had the most energetic bunch of double E students to talk to that day. But, hearing them passionately talk about what they went through, I'm just learning what they've accomplished. And, that's the kind of feedback that I'm going to relay back to our hiring teams because they just want to know that they can fit into the group. The jobs don't look that much different than what the experienced folks are already doing. We just maybe give them a little more of a learning curve on certain areas, but it really is, you're doing real work from the get-go.
That's awesome. So let's talk about soft skills and technical skills. What do you guys feel like is necessary to be successful in the industry? What kind of soft skills and technical skills do I need to walk in with?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, do you
Everyone's
want to
going to
pick
jump on that one.
And I think we could all say something on that. It's so important.
Yeah, for sure. I would say like for, and I'm sure you guys would echo this, the biggest thing being obviously, and we've all been saying this when we were talking about AI, curiosity. If you're willing to take on and, learn these LLMs, dig into that communication, teamwork, adaptability. I always tell students when they come up to me and they have a panicked face and they're like, I haven't really like looked a lot in, I didn't take any semiconductor classes or anything like, would you guys even consider me? And it's like, okay, let's talk about your project management skills. What sort of hands-on experiences have you had? And then of course, your ability to just present in front of people. How comfortable are you with, selling your ideas to folks? Those are the kind of skills that I'm looking for when I'm chatting with students.
Yeah, I agree. Having a strong conversation is super important, and I think it kind of gets lost, especially in the interview prep stage when I think some of my candidates want to focus on having a perfect conversation, and which is not a strong conversation. A strong conversation is very organic, it's very fluid, and it's more about bringing up your ideas and showcasing that you are not only a strong communicator that can collaborate, but are you a problem solver? So I'm really, really loving this emphasis on curiosity because it's very, very important to everything that we do.
I think on my side, the soft skills important, but definitely still weighing a lot more on the technical skills. When we do see how their communication styles, really more looking at, okay, this person could definitely be in the field, whereas, you could tell by personalities, strictly an engineer. I'm only sharing this with R&D. They are not going to be part of the field applications group. But for all the technical skills, it's really every job discipline, there's going to be one key area that we're looking into. Like as we talk a lot about AI or ML, really when I'm talking with students on campus, we just want to learn what they've done. I'm going to have them describe to me what linear regression is and how they answer that question. I can tell if they've actually applied that in anything that they've done in their algorithms, or if they're just giving me the 2 sentence statement that they memorized from a textbook. And then likewise, if they're double E's who want to do design, if you get them talking about what chips they actually did design, you can learn a lot. Just let them keep talking and take your notes. All I need to do is really kind of find out which side of the design world they're in. And that's, sorry, my phone is ringing when it's not supposed to. But I just wanted to, tell me what side they are, whether it's front end verification or back end. Someone's really trying hard. Sorry. But for the most part, technical stands higher for me than the soft skills.
I talk to a lot of companies and they always emphasize being able to, communication is so big, like being able to write, right? Especially like for engineers, being able to write procedural stuff or being able to have that communication verbally with someone. What are your feelings on that?
I think I've seen more teams rule someone out when they kind of see something, but there's not something that we normally screen in for. It's probably something that they would be more screened out for if they believe that they can't fit into that. Because they do rely, a lot of the stuff that we do work on is such emerging technology that a lot of the managers I work with are really focused on that first. And then secondary is going to be whether they can fit into that culture, whether those soft skills do matter with the communication, or as you said, the writing skills, that will have a factor. And it can vary a little bit between different teams, because some can support that. So they don't see it as important, even if somebody is not as good at their writing skills or their communication skills. They have a full support that can back that up, and they can take advantage of someone's technology skills, because they can be really brilliant in some areas, but they don't necessarily explain it well. So sometimes you just need to have the right partnerships.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's be honest now. Out of a list of all these qualifications, like what percentage would you say you look for that people have? Do you look for that 100% they checked every box? Or are you allowed to like say, well, this isn't there, but they'll gain it on the job. So we'll, even though they don't check all the boxes. What do you think? What do you guys look for?
Yeah, I will completely agree with that statement. We do not look for somebody that is checking every single box. We want somebody that is willing to learn, that is willing to ask questions, has that curiosity. That is the base thing that we're looking for. When it comes to, some of the more technical things, obviously, as we look for higher level positions, certain teams, obviously I'm looking for, that sort of a background. But, for me, it's just the ability for them to, have a actual, and like Laura said, organic conversation. And then also just to have that curiosity is incredibly important to us, because we know that we can teach a lot of those things that they need on the job.
Great, because for a lot of my friends on the call right now, they're newly graduated. This might be their first real, like, full-time career kind of job. So, and with that being said, the next question says, what are some practical strategies for finding a job in the semiconductor industry? Spill the tea, guys. How do I get a job in this industry?
I'll let someone else go first, but I'm just going to say there is no one good answer to that, because there's going to be multiple strategies.
Yeah.
So someone else can start, and then I'll chime in midway.
No, I agree. There's a lot of dimensions to semiconductor, and I think you'll see it in each company as you go to explore our career opportunities. You're going to see it in the job descriptions and titles and what we're looking for. And sometimes you're a blend to different domains and areas. I think just learning more about the companies you are applying for and learning more about their portfolio, how that could potentially intersect with some of what you have interest in. I think it layers nicely with what Hallie said. It's not about checking all the boxes, because honestly, a resume, if it checks all the boxes, oftentimes that's not the resume that gets hired at the end of it all. It's you're just trying to grab attention. It's a marketing piece, if you will. Your resume is your marketing angle. How are you marketing yourself to the audience, and your audience primarily is a recruiter. And then from there, it goes a little bit deeper as you get funneled through to a team. At least that's the way AMD processes all, resume review and so on. So know who your audience is, know their portfolio, customize it as best you can. But yeah, those are little tidbits from me.
I totally agree with those. And I would say one way to stand out too, if you're able to, is to build connections with those companies, whether it's through like industry talks, conferences, campus events, company info sessions. So it's a great way to learn more about the companies and those roles that they're hiring for. But then also to get your resume, get your name out there. So at KLA, I'm sure these other companies as well, but we get thousands of applicants for our interns and new grad roles. So it can be really hard to stand out sometimes when you're just submitting a resume online. So if you're able to go to these kind of events, even virtual ones like this one here, but that's a great way to really stand out and have a conversation with a recruiter to get them to know you, learn about the company. And then I would say too, kind of when you are reviewing companies, make sure you're reviewing some of the ones that maybe aren't always those big names that like on that logo quiz we went through, because there's a ton of different companies in this industry where you can make a really big impact. So cast a wide net to those that maybe aren't super well known. And when you are applying, just kind of tailor your tailor your application to the job description. So you're highlighting all of the things relevant that you have experience with, so you can really showcase how it ties to the roles that you're applying for.
Carrie, you have any advice?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we haven't chatted about is I think of the semiconductor industry right now as a rocket ship. It is going to grow exponentially in the next few years. And so I really do think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity, which includes like there may not be workforce for everyone for these. So kind of what we touched on earlier, there could be on the job training available because there may not be people to fill these roles that we need. So I think that's something to keep in mind. I think the other thing that's helpful is I know earlier we had talked about a lot of different jobs with titles and things like that. Your skill set may not fit perfectly into that. Go onto these career sites, type in some of the skills you have to better understand, oh, well, at this company, this is actually called this. And then you can start to look at that as well. But again, there is going to be a ton of opportunity. Like I can speak to what's happening at LAM. And so, again, don't be intimidated if you don't have, the skills for it. That's okay. They can likely be taught on the job. I think the other thing that's really important is to actually read through the job description for the qualifications. I have had students come to me before saying, hey, I applied for this job and I didn't hear back. Let's go look at it. Let's see what it is. We open it up. It was for a senior director. So, not exactly the best match there. And so, kind of looking and seeing like, oh, this is for an entry level, PhD engineer. I'm just finishing my bachelor's. Let's find something else. So I think reading through some of that, because I'm always so surprised. I'm like, do people even read the job descriptions and, kind of what they're looking for? So taking that little bit of extra time to understand, oh, this is what this company is looking for, that's going to help with your application as well, that there's a match on the back end.
That's amazing. All of you, amazing feedback.
Yeah.
So,
And just also add to that, job
Yeah,
applications, I will never say don't apply to a job, but you just have to do it. But just don't stop there, because I always see online people say I applied to 100 jobs. I'm only getting one response, if any. But you just got to do everything else. The resume you submit, the job application will never feel this. Why is it every time I talk, my phone is ringing? Sorry.
we can't
But
hear
every,
it, by the way.
but
We don't-
basically every time you apply to job, you're always going to filter your resume to make sure those key buzzwords are there, because it is the applicant tracking system that's picking it up. So that's just one thing. But then networking is always going to be important, because that's where you're going to make your connections. All the company events that we're a part of, whether it's the campus job fairs or when we're doing our own tech talk presentations, definitely use that time to talk to us and let us learn who you are. As far as when Cadence is at a job fair, we're not really trying to match you with a job opening because I will be honest, like 1 year we're at the job fairs, our careers opened early as it should be in the fall, as anyone in UR should know. We get caught up with things. We do acquire a lot of companies, and when that happens, they make us wait until the acquisition has finalized. So we don't always have to open jobs, but that doesn't stop us because every summer we are hiring the same disciplines regardless. So even though I can't point to a job in real time, I know what questions I'm going to ask you. So just be ready to answer those questions, be ready to share what you've done, but don't rely on one strategy to apply for a job. You have to be using all the resources. And even if not the networking of who you met at these events, a lot of us grew up knowing people who already work in this industry. Definitely you want to leverage that.
Thank you. Ruth, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I wanted to get the thoughts from the recruiters on how your internal referral systems work, because we have 14,000 last mile alumni, and many of them have jobs, and so they're doing internal referrals for people. But I know from my experience that some companies won't process a referral if you've already applied online or you're already in the system. So what I recommend students do is look for the referral first. How do you guys handle that on your side?
I always tell them it's about visibility. So there should be not one place to get in. It's just, if I'm getting a good conversation, the managers are getting that visibility because I'm sharing the evaluation notes. If they have other networking friends, colleagues, family, utilize it all because it's all about visibility. But when we go back to talk about applying for a job, the reality is that 1 week the job is open, there's going to be over 1,000 applicants. So you're not going to get that visibility if you rely on just one thing. You have to use all of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just to echo off of what Eric just said, and Ruth, you just touched on it. We have a process where, one of the employees refers you into the system, and then you get an email, the applicant, and saying, hey, I accept, or I want to move forward with my application for this role. But they miss the next step. And that is to have your internal person ping the hiring manager, ping the recruiter, like tap them on the shoulder. Because like to your guys' point, if I get 1,000 applicants, I would say at least, anywhere between 5 to 10% are going to be referrals. That's still a huge chunk of applicants. And so just wanting to make sure that you're covering all your bases. And then of course, once you do make those connections, messaging them on LinkedIn, having that conversation, and just making sure that you're having all those different touch points for sure.
At KLA, with our referral system, similar to what you said, Ruth, I would recommend that students are getting a referral before applying, just the way our system works internally, to be able to highlight that referral. I mean, referrals don't always guarantee anything, but they're definitely put some weight on the application, and we do make sure that we're referring our referral or reviewing our referrals, because they are coming from a KLA employee who's obviously vouching for someone. So if you're comfortable with it, definitely make connections. You can use LinkedIn as a tool. View in company profiles, they show employees at the company, so you can kind of go through that and see job titles that might interest you. I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but don't be afraid to send that message and see if they'd be interested in an informational conversation, to make the connection, ask questions, and potentially from there get a referral to the roles at that company.
And I'll add mine only because it's very, very different than what they've outlined for their processes. We want all referrals to apply to our careers page and to set up a profile. That way you exist and can then be moved internally to the appropriate teams. The referral is a beautiful layer to all of it. Like Eric mentioned, I mean, you want to network as much as you can, add the referral layer to it, but we still require the referral candidate to move through the process fairly as all of our other applicants.
That's great. Great question, Ruth. So with that, we only have like 3 minutes left. Can we go to each one of you and maybe just some last words of advice to our new graduates and our upcoming graduates?
Like we say, if you're going through job interviews, for those who haven't found their jobs yet, probably one thing to always remember is just let the answers come out organically, because I've seen things where people overstudy trying to rehearse answers. So you don't know for sure what the question is going to be. So it's just really just demonstrate your knowledge and things should go smoothly.
I'm going to echo what Eric just said. One of the things that I love about working at Applied Materials is that from day one, I was encouraged to use my authentic voice. Be authentic, be organic. You know, if you don't know, say so. Ask questions so you do understand. But yeah, bringing your most authentic voice is going to be the best way for you to get your foot in the door for sure.
And I think with that authenticity, it's okay if you don't have the answer. It's best to just, it's a learning process too. The interview is an assessment of where you're at, what level of understanding you have. And you want that to be very true and genuine to projects you've worked on and done. So let it be true and genuine. And I think the biggest distinction is that an interview is not an exam. And again, that goes back to that perfection piece of wanting to get a straight, a perfect A or 10 out of 10, getting all the answers right. Sometimes you don't have the answer and you own that. And then there's a learning opportunity. And you could actually fuse in that beautiful word that I'm loving today is curiosity. Express your curiosity and learning more about it, even though you haven't touched or done any work in that area.
And kind of along those lines too, in the curiosity and adaptability area, I would say in an interview too, while sometimes you might not want to talk about times when you struggled or something like that, but I think talking about like an area where you learned something new or adapted to a change or overcame a challenge, it can really go a long way and can show that interviewer how you have that curiosity, you're resilient and adaptable. So really don't be afraid to kind of highlight those stories with your interviews.
I just want to share that looking for a job right out of school is hard, and some people don't recognize that. Like I think back to my, earlier years, it's hard to do. So do not get frustrated if something doesn't work out at first. One of the other things I share with students as well as my interns is you may have a company in mind that is your dream company. That may not work out for you right out of school, but that's the beauty of a career is you may come back to that company years later and be like, wow, I finally made it here. So you are not a failure if you don't get into your dream company, if you don't get your dream job. Everything will help you to build experience to get to the next step in your career.
Oh, you guys shed so much light and so much good advice. I wish I had this advice when I graduated college. I feel like I need to go, even now, need to go rewrite my cover letter and update my resume and really great advice. So I'm so really touched by your honesty, transparency, and giving us the inside scoop on the semiconductor industry. So thank you all so much. We have your websites here on this slide. Is this the best direction for our listeners to get a hop on it?
Yes, to make them do anything they don't want to do.
Okay. I think with that, we're gonna wrap up. And again, thank you, panelists. Thank you, Ruth Farmer. Appreciate your time tonight. And I want to wish all our graduates and our soon-to-be graduates good luck in your job hunt and your futures, and hope to hear from you that you did land that job with one of these great companies.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.